Lucy Winter had already sent more than 30 resumes before getting a job offer. Her biggest weakness was a lack of academic formation. As she had not finished high school, she could only find simpler jobs that paid less. At first, Lucy almost didn't go into the bank to see if they were hiring. After all, what would an institution like that want with a woman like her? But she overcame her nervousness and went in, figuring she had nothing to lose. She was surprised when she saw a sign saying that they were looking for someone to clean the offices, and Lucy decided to try her luck. During the interview, the HR director was a little apprehensive about hiring someone so young who already had a child she was raising alone with no help from the father. But on the other hand, her situation would likely make her grab any work opportunity with both hands. So, after thinking more, she decided to offer Lucy the position. Lucy was ecstatic. It wasn't her dream job and the salary wouldn't change her life, but it was a start and would be enough to pay her bills. And who knows, maybe even some of little Nina's favorite chocolate. Lucy rented a small house far from the center of Minneapolis that, despite its simplicity, took a good part of her salary. The positive point was that the house owner who lived next door had taken to Lucy and her daughter and would watch Nina sometimes on weekends while her mother looked for work. Donna Maria was a gentle and tranquil older woman that, despite her age, would do anything to help the young woman who had grown up in an orphanage and had no family to support her. Lucy had practically no memories from her early childhood. All she knew was what the orphanage staff had told her, that she had arrived soon after being born. There were rumors that her mother had died shortly after the birth, and they had found nobody to care for the baby. So Lucy never saw her biological parents and could only dream of who or where they were. The young mother feared that she might follow in her mother's footsteps. It wasn't easy to care for the baby, and she never understood why her boyfriend had left her for 3 weeks before the baby was born. She was sad and even cried every time she remembered this. But somehow, she knew that Norris, her ex-boyfriend, was a petty person who was afraid of responsibility. So, he did what any other coward would do: give up and disappear from her world using any lame excuse. But now, Lucy had a job that paid more than unemployment insurance, and she could try to get her life back together again. She had no fear of hard work, and though she knew cleaning a bank was not impressive, she wanted to make a difference and feel like she deserved her check every month. But Lucy had no idea of the physiological challenge awaiting her. She arrived excited to work on her first day, thinking she would meet some serious, well-educated and friendly people. But the actual experience was rather unpleasant. First, some of the bank tellers figured it would be funny to play a joke on the new hire, especially when they found out she was young. Then, barely hiding their contempt, they asked a series of invasive questions and implied that Lucy was wasting her life with such a poor-paying and worthless job. But all that time in the orphanage had taught her to be resilient, and she didn't let their comments weigh on her head or cause her to lose focus. After all, it was her first day, and she wanted to show she would fit well in her new position. Even though they found time to make fun of the latest cleaning lady, none of them thought to ask her name. In the following days, nobody talked with Lucy, continuing their work as if she didn't exist. But Lucy was determined to leave the office impeccable, and it didn't take long before they noticed how the floors shined and the bathroom smelled of perfume all day. And that was how Lucy began to be seen by the other bank employees. Then, finally, Wellington Mendez, the agency's director of many years, noticed the young woman's perseverance. When he encountered her in the hallway one day, he said she had magic hands because never before had this office stayed clean for so long and smelled so good of eucalyptus. In addition, Mr. Mendez noticed she was caring for the plants as well, and because of this, his geranium had bloomed for the first time in 4 years. The director was delighted with her work, which left Lucy feeling more than content. She was finally on the right track. But it was also in this first encounter that Mr. Mendez looked with attention at the young woman's face for the first time and thought she looked like someone he knew but couldn't remember who. In the end, after much analysis of the woman's face, he gave up, and with a smile, let her continue with her work. He closed his office and went home, where his wife awaited him. Wellington Mendez was married to Amanda, a woman 20 years younger than him. They met 3 years ago and were married after only a month of dating. Entirely overtaken by his younger wife's beauty, he seemed to have found the happiness he had dreamed of for so many years as a single man, but had never encountered. But of course, many business owners and investor friends didn't hide their concerns, saying she only married him for his money. But Mr. Mendez was sure that was not the case. He was too much in love to believe those allegations. He thought they were just jealous of the woman he had conquered and who said she loved him. Every day at dinner, Wellington would tell Amanda how his day at the bank had been. Only a few interesting things ever happened there, but this time he talked about how competent the new cleaning woman was, especially in his office where the plant seemed to have gained new life. It turns out that Mr. Mendez talked with so much excitement and admiration for Lucy that he didn't even notice Amanda getting annoyed by him, frowning, closing her eyes, and biting her lips. She was impatient but didn't want to interrupt her husband. Instead, she wanted to know everything she could about the new star at the bank that had captured her husband's attention. In Amanda's head, the cleaning woman was definitely after her husband, wanting to impress and steal him from her, because after all, she wouldn't get any big promotions. When Wellington finished talking, his wife faked a smile and said, "I need to meet this woman. It sounds like we'll get along well. I'll pass by the bank soon to meet her." At 30 years old, Amanda knew what she wanted in life. She wouldn't let anyone threaten the lifestyle she had conquered when she married the senior banker. Even though she didn't love him, she always needed to work to keep him in love with her. Meanwhile, Amanda satisfied herself with the lover she had set up soon after the wedding. Whenever Wellington went out of town, she would meet her lover at a hotel. But now, she set her sights on the new hire at the bank, since the young cleaning woman could only be interested in stealing her golden goose. Meanwhile, Lucy Winter continued doing great work, completely unaware of the tumult she had begun with the bank director's wife. And so, she continued to have long conversations with Wellington every time they ran into each other. The young woman felt very comfortable with the man, who was intelligent and friendly. "I can't stop thinking I have seen you somewhere before, Lucy, but I don't know where it is," he said, smiling. "Look, Mr. Mendez, I doubt you have seen me anywhere," Lucy responded, her face turning red. "Because I grew up in an orphanage, and since I left, I'm sure I never went somewhere where a man like you would go. Besides this, as far as I know, my mother died in childbirth." The first month passed quickly, and Lucy Winter finally got her first paycheck. It wasn't a mountain of money, but that income was a considerable improvement for the young mother who had gone through significant difficulties. Even though she couldn't splurge, she organized a little party for her daughter. She bought soft drinks, candy, and a decorated cake that would catch any child's eye. When she saw Nina's smiling face looking at all that, Lucy couldn't help but let out a tear of happiness run down her face. It looked like their desperation was finally over. Her daughter would have more things to smile about, and she would have more space to breathe more easily. She didn't know that everything would change in the next 24 hours. When Lucy arrived at the bank to work, the same way she had always done these last weeks, she saw Wellington desperate and nervous as she had never seen him. He shouted that documents had disappeared from his safe and that it was a crime. Worse, the safe had not been broken into, meaning it had been someone with access to the bank and his office. He didn't know how someone had discovered the code to his safe. Of course, Mr. Mendez trusted his employees and didn't want to jump to conclusions, even more so because the team had been working together on the same project with the same objective for over a year. So who could he suspect? The day was indeed a horrible one for the director, and when he arrived home as always, he sat for dinner and told his wife everything that had happened. And to his surprise, Amanda knew how to find the traitor on the team. "Dear, who is not part of the team? Who arrived later?" she asked with an evil smile. "These documents disappeared a month after the new cleaning lady started working at the bank. Don't you think that's strange? She gets in everything, cleaning every nook and cranny. She knows the place better than you." Wellington thought it made sense to suspect her, but wanted to investigate more before accusing her of anything. After all, what would she have to gain from doing this? The following day, the bank director waited for Lucy to arrive and called her to his office. There, the bank security team awaited her. They were hard on her, but the young woman denied any involvement in the case. "I don't know about any documents. I only clean the bank and care for the plants. So you have to believe me. I don't even know which documents are important here," she said, already worried about losing her job and wondering what she would do then. Though having only some circumstantial evidence, the security team said the cleaning lady was their prime suspect. With no way to prove her innocence, Lucy tried appealing to Mr. Mendez, saying it made no sense to accuse or suspend her without proof. The director also didn't think Lucy had broken into the safe, but he had to show that he was doing something to resolve the case. Wellington swore to himself that if she were guilty, she would pay for her error. But if in the end she were proven innocent, he would personally and humbly ask for her forgiveness. In this business for more than 3 decades, Mr. Mendez contracted an independent investigator to analyze the situation. Naturally, he paid a great deal for this, but he was sure they would find the responsible party. After all, the future of his bank and his job depended on those stolen documents. The investigation took most of the week. During all that time, The cleaning lady was the only one suspended, and a terrible rumor was going around that she was the saboteur, stealing documents for competing banks. At home, Lucy was apprehensive. She couldn't prove her innocence and worried she might end up being arrested. When the investigator turned in his preliminary report to the bank director, there is a section with a photo, credentials, and a short biography of every employee in the bank at the moments of the robbery. Mr. Mendez flipped through to find Lucy's biography. What he discovered about the single mother made him uneasy. "Is this true?" he asked the investigator, pale as a ghost. "Yes, sir. Everything in that file is true. I am good at my work," he responded with confidence. So, Wellington immediately called for his driver and asked him to take him to the newly hired cleaning lady's house. During the trip, he repeated to himself quietly, "This can't be true. It can't be." Seeing the director get out of his car, Lucy thought the worst. She would be fired and arrested there on the spot in front of her daughter. She watched him approach and looked behind him, wondering when the police car would turn the corner. Mr. Mendez didn't accuse her of any crime when he arrived at the door. Instead, what the young woman heard was more shocking and unbelievable. "Hi, daughter," he said. "Is your mother Lori Smith by any chance?" Lucy was confused. She had not expected to hear anything like this. And why was the director crying? But even without understanding anything, she replied yes. Her last name Winter came from the family that had adopted her when she was 11 years old. She hadn't finished talking, and Mr. Mendez was holding in front of him a document found by the investigator in the orphanage's files. A file he collected to research the cleaning lady's past. The file said that Lori was, in fact, Lucy's mother and had died from complications in childbirth. Few knew that Wellington had loved Lori Smith intensely when they were young, but the two separated when his family moved to London against his will. When he returned to Minneapolis many years later, he had no information about her. When they had separated, she was already pregnant by him, but apparently didn't know about it. So Lucy, it was clear, must have been Wellington's daughter. The dates matched. The young woman was stunned by the news. Could this be true? Mr. Mendez appeared to have no doubts. He went toward her with open arms and tears in his eyes and hugged her. Lucy didn't know if she was crying, laughing, or just dreaming. There were so many emotions at once. When little Nina walked into the living room and the man understood that she must be his granddaughter, he got down on one knee and kissed her forehead tenderly while his tears moistened Nina's head. Through fingerprint analysis, the investigator concluded that Lucy Winter had nothing to do with the disappearance of the documents, nor did any other bank employee. So they had to amplify their search to find matching prints, eventually proving beyond a doubt that Wellington's wife Amanda had stolen the documents. At first, the man couldn't understand why his wife would break into his office, open his safe, and steal documents she knew were important to many people, including her husband. But he felt sick when he finally understood that Amanda was petty and cruel enough to commit a crime to incriminate another person. His wife also didn't imagine the investigator would go so deep as to discover her affair with another man. Upon hearing this, Mr. Mendez felt like an idiot, and that it was time to correct things. So he called his lawyer and asked him to draw up divorce papers. Fortunately, thanks to their prenuptial agreement, Amanda wouldn't get 1 cent of her husband's fortune. Wellington may have been blinded by love when they married, but his lawyer was meticulous. For Lucy and Nina, this all meant a significant change in their future. Now that he had a daughter and a granddaughter, Wellington's life also gained new significance. Neither he nor she suffered any longer from the fear of not being loved. Now it was possible to have a family. If you like this story, please leave a like. You'll also enjoy the video appearing on screen now. Have a great day, and see you in the next video.